Welcome, everyone, to Talking Textiles. I'm Kyle Van Dam, a member of the ATA Marine Fabricators Association and owner of Marine Tops Unlimited. I'm your host for today's discussion. The goal of this podcast is to get to know the wide variety of positions and markets that make the advanced textiles world turn. We will be talking to professionals in different roles throughout this series to help inspire the next generation of textile professionals and anyone interested in learning about others' journey in the world of textiles. ATA offers advanced textiles content throughout the year, including the upcoming Women in Textiles Summit taking place March 31st through April 2nd, 2025, in New York City. The goal of the summit is to strengthen the advancement of women in the textile industry through an interactive forum. Please visit textiles.org/events to learn more. On today's episode, we are speaking with David and Barbara Huntington, owners of River Custom Canvas. The Huntingtons have been in the marine canvas trade since 2014. They are producers of a variety of canvas types, including marine tops, covers, enclosures, flooring, and sunshades. And now, let's talk textiles. Hi, I'm Kyle Van Dam. Today's featured guests are David and Barbara Huntington. Thanks for jumping on the podcast with me today, guys. I guess we'll just jump right into it and tell us a little bit about your company, where you guys are from, where that market is, kind of what you guys all do, and how you started, I guess, too.
Well, it's funny. We've been boaters for about 20, almost 30 years now, and our friends would harass us because I'm a sewer. That's my base. I'm a quilter by trade, and I own a retail quilt shop. And we would see our friends sitting in the marina waiting for the canvas guy to show up. And
which they often never did.
Right. So we would, they would say, you should do this. You could do this, Barbara. I know you can. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. So I did do some research and found some resources, and I found a class that takes some training, and I realized, yeah, I guess I can do this. And we started in somewhere around 2014.
August of 2014 was when we started, and it was late in the season because our season wraps up by November. The lakes freeze at that point.
Sure, yep.
Yeah.
So we didn't get a whole lot of work done that year, but that was the start.
Yeah, and I did take some training in Massachusetts with a master craftsman fabricator, and it filled in all the blank spots.
Game changing.
Yes, it was game changing, where I could go to a boat and learn how to pattern and actually pattern the boat and take it to my shop, fabricate it, and then install it.
Yeah. Who did you do your training with?
I did my training with Mark Hood.
Mark Hood. Okay. Yep.
Mark and Deb Hood.
Yep. Yeah.
And it was game changing for me. Instead of going back and forth to the boat, I love that there are people out there that very talented that can go back and forth to the boat. I just couldn't do it. The stress of that.
Sure.
So, you asked about where we are. We're kind of in a unique market. We're located in the Thousand Island region in New York, which is the St. Lawrence Seaway. That's the body of water that separates the United States from Canada. So, I mean, literally by boat, we can leave our marina and we can cross into Canadian waters in 4 miles.
Yeah.
And by car, it's about 12. So it's a resort area. Off season, we might have 5,000 people in town, and June, July, August, September. I mean, they come from everywhere.
Sure. Yeah.
And, they're looking these are high-end jobs that we're doing. They're looking for quality work. And, Barbara started this as a part-time gig, and it very quickly, within 1 year, we realized that you can't say no to every person that calls. So
yeah,
it became a full-time gig really quick.
Yeah, I was going to ask, that's a perfect little segue. I was going to ask, what were you guys doing? What were you doing for a job previous to that? And did you guys at some point just kind of say, hey, we're done with that, and we're going to dive headfirst into this then?
Well, as I mentioned, I was in the retail quilt industry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I had a separation from my partner,
mm-hmm.
and we went on our way, and I took a break, and I was helped raising my grandchildren. And then David realized, okay, we need to make some money. So when we started the canvas shop, I wasn't working prior to that. So,
Sure.
David still had his full-time job. And the joke is that he works for me part-time, 80 hours a week.
Yep.
So, but he still does have his full-time job, and it's unique because it's direct sales.
It's a full-time job that in the summer I work about 5 hours a week at.
Okay.
So I'm an independent sales agent, independent contractor, so I can do what I want.
So it kind of helps
It
with the
works
schedule
out
of Marine
perfect.
Canvas. Yeah.
And
You used to think you were having your summers off, but now you got roped into just double work now.
yeah, people wonder sometimes why we're not on the boat, and it's because we got backlogged, and we're just trying to fit everything in, which is often very difficult. But
Yeah. Yeah.
we don't have any employees. It's just a husband and wife team, and in the prime season, I mean, we're in the shop by 8, and we usually work until 5, 6 o'clock.
Sure. Yep.
And
It sounds.
same routine every day.
Ye-
Eat, go to bed, start all over again.
Yep. Yep. It gets to seem like that every once in a while in that type of year, or in our industry, I should say. What are you guys like? What's your facility like over there? It looks like I was just doing a quick Google search. You guys are kind of just about right on the water with your building there.
Yeah. So we don't actually own the building in the
Mhm.
marina. We started out with a trailer, basically,
Okay.
an 8 by 36 foot job site trailer. And I think that people that are looking to get into this business need to realize that you can definitely start small. I mean,
Oh
there's
yeah.
tons of people in our area that pull around a snowmobile trailer or whatever, and they're
Mhm.
working out of that. That's not our style, but we were fortunate, and we're still very fortunate to have reasonable rent in the marina that we're in. And we work out of this job site trailer. We also lease some space inside one of their storage buildings, which is where I have my frame bending equipment set up. And
Okay.
if it's foul weather, we can usually back a boat in there to pattern and so forth, which
Mm.
we have a lot of foul weather. And then during COVID, when everything was shut down and everybody's being forced to work from home, we actually converted a building that we owned into a secondary shop.
Okay.
We don't see customers there. We call it Barbara's secret shop. So I'm in the marina dealing with all the walk-in traffic, and she's got a Lifetime movie on and or her music, and she's working, and she gets stuff done, which
I get
is
stuff
important.
done.
It can
That's
be
what.
difficult if you've got someone walking in the door every 10 minutes. You miss steps, and
Yeah. Oh, it's
it's hard.
it's very difficult. The phone rings or somebody, and it's one of those things where you have to, okay, you have to answer the phone or talk to that customer, and it takes it however long it does. And then you almost have to come over and, okay, what was I working on, and get your head wrapped around that project again. I know my dad specifically at our shop, who does a lot when they're there during the summer, answers the phone and does that. He's always complaining about that. And he's always like, oh, the phone's ringing again. And then all of a sudden this really nice voice to answer the phone. So
Yeah.
we always laugh at that. But yeah, it's like, well, you gotta like when the phone rings, but at the same time, it's kind of a bother.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And part of our business plan from the beginning was we answer our phone.
Yeah.
Every time it rings, we answer the phone.
Hmm.
And it is my phone. So I answer my phone.
Yep.
Even if I'm working, that's the only distraction that I do get if I have that. I typically am kind of making a little log to let me know. But anyways, so that's our whole business plan, is just to answer our phone.
Yeah.
So
Be there, be present for your
right.
customers.
And
Yeah.
typically, we encourage people to send pictures of their boat, what they're looking to have done, and we encourage them to send us an email
Mhm.
so that when we're off duty, we're looking at emails.
Which
We're
never are off duty.
no, when we're
Right.
looking at emails, we're sending out estimates based on those interactions.
Yeah.
Very rarely, I mean, we do, but very, very rarely do we go to the boat and sit with the customer for however long that can be. As you know, it can
Mhm.
be a long visit where they're
Yes, it
asking you if
can.
you want a beverage. And it's like, okay, I don't have time for that.
Yeah. Right.
So
I know you're on vacation, but I don't get that
right. We
luxury.
typically encourage that so that we can, and then if they're interested,
Mhm.
then we'll go to the next step.
That's a lot of what we do as well.
So can you add anything to that?
No, I think our situation might be a little bit more unique because most of the boaters are weekenders. They're coming from 5 or 6 hours away, New York City, Jersey,
Right. Pennsylvania. Yeah.
all over the place. So they're not there to have us look at it anyways. The And during the week, when the marinas are quiet, is typically when we want to go and poke around and do our measurements and things of that nature. So, we correspond a lot with text messaging and, with pictures back and forth. And ultimately, once we get the green light to do the job and we've got the deposit, we'll go to work. And I mean, we probably a third of our customers we've never even met.
Yeah, I think we're actually a lot like that as well. When we do some work a little further away from our shop in Wisconsin where we have a lot of different markets that we in different locations that we kind of service. It's kind of interesting. But the market that's a little further away from us is a lot like that, where people are only there on the weekends. They're like, "Hey, can you come up? Can you meet me on Sunday?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna do that. An hour and a half away. No,
That's your day off.
unless
That's the thing, you enjoy your boat.
Right. Yeah. That's when I finally get to go boating. And that's usually the day it rains then too.
Uh,
So, it's funny that you say that a lot of that kind of same stuff is we do the same thing. I try, especially now over the last couple of years, I've gotten smart with really trying to run a lot of things through email or a little bit through text messaging. I find as we're getting busier, a larger workload and trying to do a lot of it with mostly the same staff that we have.
Mhm.
Or whatever staff, any level of staff any company has, it's as you get busier, it's just things fall through the cracks and this person, I saw them, at the marina one time and I walked by and they said, "Hey, ask me a little luck." So it's like, "Yo, send me an email." And then I have some sort of a record of it. So if you do forget, what did we talk about? Or what did I say? What price did I quote? Or
That paper trail is
yeah,
really
yeah,
important
yep.
sometimes.
Yeah, I find that makes me look like a lot smarter business person if I can actually just, go back and look at my basically notes that you have on the conversation. So,
Right.
yeah, definitely works really well for us too. Yeah. So you touched on the COVID topic a little bit, and I was just going to check with you guys. How did it seems to be a real common theme, especially over the last couple of years of doing this podcast. How did your business change? Did it grow big during COVID? Did how did that affect you guys, or how did that
so,
go?
we were a little scared, because, we stayed in Florida till late April that year because,
Okay,
New York was all shut down. I mean, I
sure.
think they kind of hammered us harder than any other area. And finally we realized we got to go back and figure this out. So, we had a bunch of patterns and stuff, which, we usually start the season with a bunch of pre-made patterns. We figured, well, we don't have to see anybody.
Hmm.
We can start working on those patterns. And we did. And, by that time we quickly realized that boating was being looked at as one of the safe activities. So people that couldn't do other things, couldn't touch the flag stick at the golf course, but you could still touch your lines and go out on your boat. People left the big cities and came to their resort area to use their boat, use their island. So we actually, year over year sales during COVID, we actually exceeded the previous year.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a shock. And it really, since that time, hasn't slowed down. A lot of people bought new boats during COVID. A lot of people bought used boats during COVID. The boating inventory in 22 was almost depleted in our area. So people were paying, good money for a quality used boat and then putting, $10 or $15,000 in work into it,
Yeah.
curtains or canvas, and
Yep.
everybody was busy as a result of that. So
Right.
I mean, the biggest thing I think that COVID did for us was, gave us the ability to create that second workspace,
Hmm.
which really, I think, added to our increase in production because, instead of working together, which, as a husband and wife, sometimes that's fun and sometimes it's not,
It has its moments.
respectively, we kind of each got our own jobs we're working on each day.
Yeah.
And I'm doing smaller jobs, mooring covers. She's working on, full enclosures on 30+ foot boats. I do all the carpeting. I do all the frame bending. I do the bookkeeping, the ordering, and other, things that aren't so fun.
The
So
janitorial, cutting the grass, all the other fun
there's
things.
days that, that we'll both work 9 hours and won't even see each other.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, and we're in the Thousand Island region, so we are doing work on some of the islands, doing porch enclosures and other things of that nature. So we have a boat that we get out. A lot of guys talk about they have a service trailer. We got a service boat to go out and do some of our jobs.
That's pretty awesome. Tell me about the service boat. I got to ask about it. What are we working with?
It's a beauty.
It's a 1988 Cobalt, 22 foot with a 454 in it.
Okay. Yep.
And we bought it for $1,500 10 years ago. I
Okay.
think the canvas that we put on it was more than the boat.
Yep.
It's,
Hey,
it's beat up. This, we don't do upholstery, and people always chuckle that the upholstery in it's so bad. I don't care. I'm throwing work ladders and tools and lumber, and it just has to get me from the marina, 2 miles out to one of the islands.
yeah. Think of this as a work van here.
It's basically it's
Exactly what it is.
Yep.
Man.
That's awesome though.
When,
Hey,
when customers see it, they kind of chuckle, and we say, "Don't judge me by my boat. I didn't pay hardly anything for this. It's
Yeah.
just a tool."
I wish I could boat to my job sites instead of drive my van to my job sites. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
It has its moments.
Well,
Yeah.
especially in
When
the
it's cold and rainy, it's not as much fun.
It's true. Good
or
point.
the end of the season, we start putting the porch enclosures up in October, and we'll do some social media photos, working on the island with the ships going by and
Mhm.
post them. And people are jealous that we're still out on the river, and even though the water's 50 at that point,
Right.
but we're still out there bundled up working, and it's just beautiful. So it takes some of the stress out of the day-to-day routine.
Yeah, yeah, makes it a little bit fun. Yeah, well, tell me, what have you guys ever thought of, or have you got to the point where it's almost, necessitated looking at having employees at all? What is your guys' thought process or your conversations on growing to adding employees, or how does that work for you guys? Or is it just, we don't want to because we, don't want to deal with that stress, or how does that work for you?
Sometimes I wish that I had another sewer,
Mm-hmm.
But again, with any type of, I have my way, and then I have the right way, and then I have my way. It's the same. So to have someone come in and assist that, and, you hate to give up that a little bit. But there are times when, gee, I really wish I did have that. So, but we haven't done any further than that. It's still a wish. Occasionally, we think about grooming one of our grandchildren. We have 4 grandsons that potentially in a few years, maybe. We've got a couple of feelers out there, but we don't want to pressure them to get them, because I think we need more young people in the industry to grow that industry, to our industry.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
They're not necessarily there either.
no, we're not there. We're
Obviously,
still very active.
The workers aren't there.
Well,
I mean,
that's true.
Oh, sure.
We hear from other people in the industry constantly, their biggest struggle is looking for employees or turnover. You get a good one, and 2 years later, they open a shop on their own. I mean, personally, the two of us together, we have less than 10 years left to work, probably.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So, hopefully a grandson or somebody will step up and want to take over the business,
but we're not there.
but
Yeah.
we're not there.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, is kind of, do you guys, you kind of touched on that a little bit. Do you think much about sort of an exit strategy, in about 10 years that you're saying, or is it at this point we're just going to close up shop, and is that kind of the plan at this point, unless something else kind of pops up?
So
I think this is a really good topic to talk about in our industry, because it's a lot of people have a hard time finding what to do with their business, because it's hard to sell our businesses, because most of the knowledge in the business lies, in our
head.
in all of our heads,
Exactly.
and the talent in our fingers, all that. It's not like a pizza place that you just, well, here's the menu and here's how we make this.
Right.
Anybody can buy this pizza place.
Right.
So
they stretch the dough a little different, but it still tastes the same.
yeah, so it's basically the same. Instead of Bill's Pizza, it's John's Pizza now,
Right.
whatever. So what do you guys,
Well,
do you talk about that much?
Yep. One of the things we have, just from coming to these conferences, is learning standards,
Mhm.
things of that nature. So we've started to implement some of the standards. We do this way, and we do this way, so that we can maybe at some point pass that on and have that value there.
Yeah.
But
The value of the business is the two of us.
right,
It's the training, it's the 10 years of trial and
The
error.
knowledge. Yeah.
Something that used to take you 5 hours, takes you 2 hours.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the price that, we paid. So when it comes time to transition the business, if we don't have a family member that wants to take it over, we don't really have much to sell other than the inventory and the name.
Mhm. Some equipment, probably.
Yeah.
The boat,
Yeah.
the workboat.
The little boat, yeah. My grandson uses that when he comes up to fish, so who knows?
That's
what
not for
condition
sale
that'll
then.
be. But, you know, if we find the right person to come in as an apprentice, and, you know, we've even put some feelers out to a couple of local kids in town
Mhm.
that, you know, weren't going to college, that looked like they were interested in a trade. And then one of them decided to be a welder, and off he went. But maybe he'll come back and take that welding skill and, you know,
Put it into that business. Yeah.
create an awning business or whatever.
Yep. I know some
We
guys
don't
that have
know,
done
but,
stuff like that.
you know, if at the end of, you know, 8, 10 years, the time comes that we decide that, you know, we're done, then, you know, part of it, an exit strategy is just going to be to liquidate inventory and
Right off into the sunset,
ride
as they
off and
say.
enjoy your retirement.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people look at that and there's really nothing wrong with that. I mean, if that's what you're prepared for and financially that's what you plan for, there's no issue with that. It's just the biggest thing I think is it's tough to, you know, that's not bringing not that that's your guys' fault or anything, but
Right.
it's not a way for us to get new people into the industry or younger people and continue the industry, which, as we all know, seems to be the boating industry has exploded over COVID, and it's sure in many ways it's contracting a bit right now. It kind of almost had to, but our canvas and upholstery and flooring industries, what we are doing here is it's increasingly becoming an older person's game almost, except for myself. There's not a whole lot of folks that are probably under 40 that come to these. And there's probably not, if you take a poll of all the canvas shops nationwide or worldwide, most of the folks that run those shops that are, the owners, or a lot of times it's just one or two people running a shop, are definitely north of 40 or north of 50. So I think it's a good topic to talk about all the time. But I like what you said about, and we do the same thing at our shop, and probably have started doing it more recently, is trying to put all of our standardized things first of all,
Yep.
and then putting all that documented a little bit. So if there were to be a turnover and handed off to someone else, or someone bought the business, there's at least, there's an instruction booklet a little bit
Right.
on how to do some of these things. Of course, it would still take some training, but then you have, if it's the pizza place, you have the menu, and you have this is how big we make the pizza, and this is how much pepperoni we put on it. If you have that, there's something to go by, and there's something to try to continue that level of quality that and that reputation that a business has built. So
I think that, anybody that has ever, dealt with the business that changed hands, whether it's a pizza shop or whether it's your, local hardware store, when a new owner comes in, things are going to be different.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
People get that. And, usually they'll still give them an opportunity and, see how it works out. If the quality is poor or they're not living up to their, their word, show, they'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Eventually. So, I think that there is some value to selling. When I say selling the business, you're selling the name, you're selling the customer database, and so forth. There's value to that. I don't discount that at all.
No, definitely.
But a big portion of that value is, the expertise of those individuals that have run that business for years. And unless somebody's, gonna, come in and give us 6 months to a year to work with them to transition, it's going to be difficult to pass all that on to them.
Yeah. And I think even in 6 months to a year is difficult to pass that on to them. I mean, there might be, I don't know how you guys are, but in our area, there's a type of certain jobs sometimes that we might only do once every 5 years,
Right.
So I've got guys that have worked with me for 4 years and they're like, oh, we've never seen this. I'm like, yeah, we probably haven't done this job for 5 years now, or something like this. So, these are
10 years ago.
Yeah, or whatever it might be. So, and you can't just, if you're like us, and I don't know how you guys, I know we talked a little bit before we started recording, and I know for us, we like to try to bill ourselves as a sort of a one-stop shop. We can take care of everything, upholstery, canvas, and flooring related, basically. There's very little that we won't do, unless it's outside of our expertise. Well, I'll tell people that honestly. It's just when they want like hardwood in a boat, that's not me. That's not something I'm going to do for you. But yeah, that's just what we've tried to do in our business for sure.
So, we have our specialties too. And, we talked about not necessarily going to the marina to see every job until we've seen pictures. And a lot of the reason for that is not to waste their time or our time.
Right.
If we know it's a job we're not going to take. For example, people say, I've got a boat, I'm looking for canvas, can you come and meet us? And if you just jump in the car or you schedule an appointment and go there without asking all the right questions, you get there and realize, oh, it's a sailboat and we don't do sailboats.
Right.
I mean, there's a different skill set there that, we have enough work. We're primarily in a market that's power boats, but there are sailboats there. And we refer them to somebody else that took the same training that we did that is younger, 20 years. It's going to be in the business long after, we're not. And he does sailboats. So, we'll refer that and say, I believe in his quality and, he'll take care of you. And hopefully they'll get some work out of it. But, a lot of times just by getting the email and looking at the photos, we can say, based on the design of this or the type of boat that's just not something that, we're comfortable with, and we move on. So we're kind of pretty good at picking through
And saying no.
and saying no,
Right.
but selecting the right jobs, because our goal is not only to answer the phone and communicate with the customer, but really to take on the jobs that we know are going to be exceptional when they're done.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and we keep busy with that. And, the two of us together, we're booked almost 3 months out all season. So you don't want to really fill your schedule with stuff that's going to be miserable to do
right.
when you're that backed up, because it just ends up taking more time or you have to redo it. And
and
that's not fun.
And we do have a few other fabricators that pull a trailer that, work there for the season and go to Florida for the season. There are a few of those kind of guys, and they've been there for a long time. So they understand the fabrication that's different than ours.
They're old school. That's what we call it.
We call it old school.
They were trained back in the 70s.
So, and they're very talented at what they do. We just can't compete with that.
Quality can.
Our quality
blows away what they do.
Yeah, typically, but
they can fabricate on the fly stuff that, we really.
Yeah. Because I really pattern everything. And if somebody wants me to just change out a panel in their boat, that's very difficult for me.
Sure.
You think, oh, I could do that all day long. An experienced fabricator can do that. But my kind of expertise is not that.
Sure.
So I need to pattern from the top down and the whole thing at once, and I can get it done. If it takes me the same amount of time to do that, then it does just one single panel that's missing that you've lost in the river. I can't help you. They don't understand it sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
But
I think a good sidebar from that is, we have a lot of friendly competitors. I mean,
right.
And I think that there's probably markets in South Florida might be a good example of that, where, there's so many fabricators per square mile and they're all stabbing each other in the back. And everybody in our area is busy. And if it's not the right job for another fabricator, they'll refer them to us.
Sure. Yep.
Vice versa. Like repairs. There's one guy who's older than us that's all he does is repairs.
Yep.
And we'll send a lot of the replacement of glass and stuff to him. And we get along great. And the value there is, if we all of a sudden are in the middle of a job, we realize that we're 2 yards short on marine blue. I can call one of these guys up and go buy and pick up 2 yards of marine blue.
Or binding or whatever it is.
So we keep going. And we're fortunate, I think, to have good relationships with those people. So we're not really losing customers when we send a sailboat to another fabricator. We're trading customers.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good way to look at it. I think that's an awesome position to be in, and an awesome, group of competitors or whatever you want to almost.
Grateful.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think they're grateful too, that, they need a little assistance. We're there. We can help sometimes. We're in a little trickier. We call one guy and he'll come out and we'll pay him for a little bit of expertise training, something of that nature that's a little bit out of our wheelhouse, but we want to get into it. And that works out well.
Usually it's a one and done.
Right. It
We're
is.
paying a consulting fee to have him come out. And the first time I did that was building a cantilever frame on a boat.
Sure. Yep.
I've never done it. And this guy had done a bunch of them. And he was one that is retiring and was referring people to us anyways. So, come on out, give me a half a day and I'll pay you. And we did, and we had a great time.
Yeah, that's good. And you learn something, and now it's something you feel comfortable with doing on boats now.
Customers that he's worked on boats before, he's kind of really doesn't really want to climb up those ladders anymore.
Yep.
So he'll send them to us, and it's I'm grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you guys in your business, everything is like a traditional way of patterning still? You guys aren't digital at all or anything like that?
That is correct. We are not digital. And, I see how they do that. When we're here at these conferences, I'm in awe. But yeah, we are not. Part of it is because we don't have that much space.
Sure.
I feel like you really need to have space. And if I'm jumping in both feet.
Right.
And I'm going to swim really hard until I can,
Yeah.
but I
figure it
don't
out.
have the space right now.
Sure.
And I think what we put out right now, although it's manually done, it's good, and the people are thrilled.
Yeah, and I assume it's a why fix what isn't broke kind of thought process. This works really well for us.
It's another learning curve.
Is some of it with you guys, you say you guys talked about you have about a decade's worth of wanting to work left. Is that part of that plays into it? Because it's, why try to change things now when we're only going to do this another 10 years? Is that some of that plays into it or not really?
Oh, I don't think so. Again, being a husband and wife team, not owning a physical, 4,000 square foot building, we could have a CAD station or, whatever. We visited a lot of shops. One of them visited Marco Canvas a couple of years ago.
Sure.
And I saw his, the way that he had his design table and his cutter and all that set up. And I mean, that is a huge facility.
Yeah.
And, of course, the capital investment for that, it could be six figures by the time you're said and done.
Yep, absolutely. Quite easily.
If we were going to cross the bridge where we decided we were going to have employees and we're going to try to make this explode, before we retired, that would be something that would be a game changer. But we've become so proficient in the one-step pattern process that, we can go to a C-Ray 300 and in 6 hours, have taken all the old stuff down, adjusted the frame, made the patterns, put everything back up, and we take that back to the shop. And I don't see her for 2 weeks, and she's just whatever it takes,
Cranking it out, yeah.
And in the meantime, I'm doing other stuff, and it's a comfortable routine.
Yeah,
and it just works for us.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, and I figured that's kind of what you guys were going to say, but
and
it's just
varies. The learning curve is
the biggest
so
thing is
big.
not having the permanent space to house the equipment.
Yeah, yep, like a cutting table or a plotter or something like that.
Her shop that she's in, the space that we have outfitted. I mean, the table that's in there is 22 by 12. If the wings are up, with about 3 or 4 feet of walk around on each side. So I mean, you just don't have the space, the permanent space to add all that type of equipment.
Right.
I think that, the people that are taking the route with with the CAD and doing all that, I mean, I do think that's probably the future. It's just not the future for us.
Yeah, no, and that's, I think it's, our industry is truly one of those where there could be many ways to skin a cat, I guess, or however you want to say it. There's a lot of right ways to arrive at a high quality product. A lot of right methods, I guess you could say. So it's always interesting to talk to people about, how they do things and how they go about creating a high end product. And there's a lot of different ways, and none of them are wrong. Some of them might be, better for certain folks than other folks, and other folks that might be the opposite way around. So it's fun to talk to people and see how they do things like that. Let me switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about this organization here. We're here for the MFA conference, starts tomorrow here in Corpus Christi, Texas, in beautiful, cold Corpus Christi, Texas, unfortunately.
Very surprised how cool it was.
Yeah, there's
cold and windy.
Beautiful palm trees outside, and it looks like you go out, it's just, oh man, I could probably go back to Wisconsin and feel about the same, I think, just about now. But anyways, talking about, when did you guys first get involved with the ATA or here the MFA, the Marine Fabricators Association, and what has been your guys' big benefits that, what have you found from here that keeps you coming back every year? But yeah, first of all, when did you guys kind of start getting involved with MFA?
So the first conference we ever came to was the one in Clearwater, and I don't know the year.
I think it was 2016.
16?
That sounds about right.
2015 was our first full year
of doing business.
Yeah.
And
how did you even hear about the MFA at first?
I don't remember.
Was it maybe through Mark?
No, well, it could have been. I don't think so. Anyway,
Okay.
So we'll skip over that till we
Sure.
come up, recall
That pops
that.
in your head.
But I do remember the day we walked in, and actually it was, can I mention names?
Oh yeah, yeah, yep.
Okay, so we walked in with this glassy-eyed, and there was Steve Griffin. And we walked in there and he's like, "Can I help you?" Yes. Is it obvious? So we had no idea what this was going to be like, what the experience was going to be like. And it was just so wonderful that everybody was so welcoming and willing to share, almost wanting to share.
Sure.
Okay. I mean,
oversharing sometimes.
sometimes. Yes. So it was just a delight, because although we knew in our business, okay, like I said, we've been boaters up there for 30 years, and you catch a little bit of something going on with the personalities of the fabricators. We weren't fabricators then.
Right.
So we get there at Clearwater with all these other fabricators. I'm like, these are the nicest people ever. They're wanting to share, sometimes overshare, but grateful for that.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have to ask the questions that you were afraid to ask.
Right.
And it was such a wonderful experience.
Yeah. And I guess I think that you're spot on what you said. My initial impression prior to going was that, everybody was there for themselves.
Right.
And when we got there, we realized everybody was there to help each other. And
Yes.
it didn't matter who you asked. I mean, they would give you resources and the whole bit. And we walked out of there with just so much knowledge.
So much.
And we met so many great people. And I think we've probably come to, we missed a couple during the COVID years.
We did miss a few.
Out of 10 years, we probably come to 7 or 8.
Sure.
Sessions, which is
and there's things that you hear about in the industry, like the CAD, and we had never experienced anything like that. So to be able to see it kind of up close and personal on how it works and understand, oh yeah, whether we were interested in that or not, we were able to say that is amazing. And there has been cases where I've had customers call and they want the certain thing on a certain kind of boat, and I said, okay, appreciate you asking me this, but I'm going to tell you right now, you need to go to a CAD guy.
Yeah.
Because what you're looking for, and the person that's really particular, he wants that too.
Yeah.
He wants that job of a CAD guy, and he would appreciate that. So this is what you need to ask the cameras people that you call.
We had a customer, I think it was last season or the year before, he had a 42-foot wooden mahogany boat that had like an upper pilot house on it. He wanted a full cover over the rub rail.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's
that's
like 5 or 10 yards of fabric right there.
Oh, at least.
That's a roll.
At least.
Fabric. And that was probably the last time we said, you need somebody that can digitize that.
Yeah, that's not exactly we're gonna have to have like a whole day of 0 mile an hour winds to pattern that thing.
Yeah.
That would be
and that's another area where we really try not to go into is wood boats.
So
Sure.
It's wonderful to have that experience though.
Yeah.
To be able to come to the conferences and see all the different ways that things are constructed and dealt with.
Yeah.
Even upholstery, I'm like, I want to do upholstery, but I'm not quite there yet. And because then again, we don't work in the winter, so it's hard to do.
That's a big upholstery time. Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
And I really do like working on enclosures, but I like to know how to do it because of being a sewing background. I can make covers, but I can't do the upholstery, and it just intrigues me.
But going back to the question, which was, why do we continue to come to the MFA? Every year you learn something new. There's different presenters, and it's great seeing the people. And there's many times during the season where we'll get backed into a corner, and I feel comfortable picking up the phone and calling Rob Katowski or Eddie down in Marco, and Mark Hood, and people that aren't even active anymore, but we've met throughout the years and say, help. What would you do? Or where would I go for this? And they will stop what they're doing. I mean, I've had Rob, we probably talked to him more than anybody, but I've had him call me back 7, 8 o'clock at night. And after the kids are in bed.
That tends to be when I talk to Rob a lot, right about that time of day.
And tell me what's going on or send me pictures. And it's just such a great resource to have. So, you're not in this business alone.
Yeah, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I mean, the way I look at MFA and ATA is there's sort of like a vehicle for us to figure all this, to kind of get together and do this. They're they're sort of a tool, I guess. And they do a great job, I think, of putting on these events and organizing them. And of course, we're always trying to make them better and better events, and more user friendly for our fabricators that come, including all of us here on the podcast. But I think the big thing they do is I think the best word would be they're a platform for all of us to come here in an organized way. Obviously there is the educational sessions, things like that, but and I do get a lot of those, especially I think newer fabricators would get the most out of that. But I find almost for me, some of the most that I get out of this is coming and networking with people and talking about it. And then you start talking to them, oh, and you do this and you do that. Well, how do you do that? And how do you do this? And how do you handle that? And it's, a lot of times it's the conversations after when there may be an adult beverage in the hand. But that's sometimes where you get to the nitty gritty and kind of actually make some of the best improvements within your business almost, I would say. And then, like you said, you build that network of people that when we're not here at the MFA conference, you can give them a call and be like, hey, I'm just stumped here. This is something weird that I've not dealt with before. And they can say, oh yeah, no, I got you. This I would do this and that. And you're like, oh yeah, that makes total sense, and it might be just this quick thing. But it saves you either a ton of time or just helps you get over the hump on a job and really deliver that top quality job, which I think those are some of the most invaluable things. And then, some of these I look, people from the north especially, we look at this as a little bit of a vacation. You get to go and get away from
It's supposed to be warm and sunny.
cold. Yeah, right. It's supposed to be warm and sunny. Apparently it was 80 degrees here about 3 days ago.
Sunday,
Yeah. And it's not anymore. And then just the friendships. I think it's actually a really refreshing thing to come to these and be with people that go through the grind of a busy season and dealing with sometimes the customers that are not so fun to deal with and the problems and all that. You get worn down, especially with seasonal business folks, like well, I'm sure folks in Florida that are not seasonal and just go do too, obviously. But I look at it as a way to recharge the batteries and come, oh yeah, you dealt with a guy like that too, laugh about it and have fun. And then, you feel a little energized when you leave something like this or another conference. There's a couple other groups that put on conferences like this too. You just feel energized, go back to your shop. I want to go, improve our this or do a little bit better with that.
You also see that sometimes the latest and the greatest new inventions or new products and the new companies that are coming out with whatever new thing is, and it's a great resource for that.
Yeah, the Market Day trade show is, you're right. Yeah, that's I almost totally just forgot about that. But yeah, that's a great resource too, whether it be at these or like the regional shows that we put on. It's a great chance to, especially for newer businesses, to go meet all the distributors, see all the products, what's new and all that, and shake hands with those people. And just as important as developing a relationship fabricator to fabricator, almost more important is developing a relationship with some suppliers, so you can call them up and be like, hey, I'm running into this and I need something that can do this. What do you have that, and a lot of those, there's a lot of fabricators that have gone to what I call jokingly the dark side and gone to the distributor side. And but some of those folks like a Steve Zane and a Keith Purvis, and there's others too. I'm not trying to miss anybody out or anything like that, but some of those guys are great resources when you can call them,
because they've been on both sides of this fence.
Yeah, and they know, and they just not to say that some the other folks that work for the distributors and different manufacturers are not useful or anything like that, but it's cool. They know what we've gone through probably more than someone that's always just been on that side of the coin. So yeah.
So you asked me how we found out about the MFA. So I've been thinking about that the last few minutes.
Sure.
And I think that in that first full year that we had in 15, we were a little frustrated, lack of training. I think we took Hood's class in the winter of 17, actually.
Yes. So,
and,
we watched videos, things of that nature.
Sure.
So we had actually gone out and Googled for a convention, Canvas convention or something of that nature, which brought us to, it was, I guess, MFA back then.
Yep. MFA or IFAI.
IFAI.
Yeah. Now it's just ATA instead of IFAI. Yep.
So we found that, and at the same time, I subscribed online to the Marine Fabricator magazine. So we started getting that, which gave you more resources.
Yeah.
And it didn't take much, I don't think, to convince us to go to sunny South Florida in
I don't think that
February
was a problem at all.
in
No.
17.
And it was beautiful sunny there.
It was.
just
That was a
sandy
great
beach.
That was a great year down in Clearwater. That was a lot of fun and really enjoyable for
Well,
sure.
I guess the only thing that I'd throw out there is, we didn't understand exactly what we were getting into. That first year, we stayed at an Airbnb in town, which was fun for us because, we enjoyed the town and some of the amenities.
Mhm.
We didn't realize how much goes on after hours at these events.
Yeah.
So we didn't participate in the after hours cocktail party. We didn't participate in the, hanging out in the lounge and visiting with people and
Mhm.
the morning breakfasts and so forth.
Right.
We just showed up for the scheduled events and we left. And that was a mistake.
Yeah.
I think that the time, the networking time and so forth with people in the hotel and after hours is a big portion of this.
Sure.
Anybody that's new that, is coming, I mean, go all the way.
Yeah.
Right. Go
Yeah.
all the
Every
way.
event, the
Do
shop-
everything
and
you
the
can. Do everything.
Shop tours were one that for us in the beginning was huge. I mean, to see how people laid things out and the tools that they had and so forth. We learned so much in the first two conferences just in the shop tours. It was mind blowing.
Yeah, I do agree with that. The shop tour, seeing how other people set up their shops and how they make use of the space they have is very cool. That's
And it
been
was,
some of the coolest things
it
too.
wasn't really marine fabricating. Like we went through a couple of awning places at one place,
Sail loft.
sail loft,
Yep.
and just to be able to see the way that works. It was very fascinating, and it there was always something to take away.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think it's just that type of thing where you got to be just kind of come in with an open attitude to kind of, I want to meet people. I want to see if I can find better ways to build these products that we do, or these custom products, and just come in with the attitude of I want to make my business better, because there's so many different things. Even the most talented fabricator here, if we could somehow elect the best fabricator here somehow,
Have to see which one works.
yeah, even that person can come to here and find something that that they might want to take back to their business. But even what's cool is I think that type of person is coming here to very openly share their knowledge too and help other folks. So yeah, it's a cool industry that we are in. I think it's very unique to our industry. I think it's one of the coolest things, and you don't really see that until you come to some of these type of conferences and things like that to kind of meet the people.
Almost kind of like a reunion for us at this point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I think we're gonna run out of time here, and about all the time we have for today. I'm sure, like anything, we could probably sit here and talk for a whole lot longer. And yes, couple of waters on ice later, and we'll have some more fun with that. But anyways, thanks for tuning into the podcast. Thank you for joining us for this episode of ATA Talking Textiles. ATA is a not-for-profit association representing the international specialty fabrics marketplace. Learn more about events, workshops, and webinars that ATA hosts throughout the year at textiles.org/events.